Oh, wretched man that I am. Those are the words of the Apostle Paul. And he says this in reference to his struggle concerning the flesh versus the spirit. And he says, in my flesh, this is verse 18 of chapter 7 of Romans, in my flesh dwelleth no good thing. Now, we're in a series of studies called The Fundamentals of Spiritual Life, and we've discussed the existence of God. We've discussed being God-breathed, such as we find in the book of Genesis, where it says, out of the dust of the earth he created man, and then he breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and he became a living soul. And we've made the distinguishment between the body that he had already created and the breath of life that he breathed into the body. So we know that there's a distinction between the spiritual man and the physical man or the carnal man. Now, one thing that we must keep in mind, that when he created man, he gave him the ability to think and reason in what we call a will. Simply saying this, man can choose to follow a spiritual path, or he can choose to follow a carnal path. And thus we find these words that the Apostle Paul has said, in my flesh dwelleth no good thing. Because the flesh is always going to be self-serving of the flesh and all of the passions and things that flesh leads us to. And so, as we find that the Scripture teaches us that if we'll choose a spiritual path, Scripture refers to it as walking in the Spirit. In other words, we choose to allow God to lead us and guide us in our daily walk and our daily path, such as that we would find ourselves desirous of saying, God, what is the will of God in my life? What is your direction in my life? God, what would you choose for me to do that would be pleasing to you? You see, that was the essence of what we find in the Garden of Eden before man and woman transgressed in partaking of the tree that they were not supposed to take of. Basically, God said to them, here's this beautiful garden. He says, dress it and keep it. Enjoy life. And in the evening and the dawn or the times of the day when the day is about to wane, he says, I'll come down and we'll fellowship together. And you can tell me what you've done this day. A beautiful walk between man and God. God still desires that. But then there's this will that says, no, I would rather choose the things that fulfills my fleshly desires over my spiritual needs. Thus, we find that the Apostle Paul uses those terms when he says, there is a war in my spirit. There is a war in me between the carnal and the spiritual. But yet, we had the choice. And of course, those who are wise will choose the spiritual path. This is Pastor Jack King with the gospel on the radio broadcast.